Good afternoon. I'm Kelsey Richardson. This is my son Shane. He's going to join us in the video today. He's been kind of clingy towards mom and would be screaming otherwise, so he's just going to probably stay here through most of this. Anyways, gender. Gender is a very hot button topic lately, especially when it comes to transgendered people about their roles in today's society, of where they fit in, and that sort of thing. I was raised where gender was black and white, male, female, pretty easy. But it is not so black and white anymore, especially in certain areas like which bathroom to use. I know that's been a huge debate over the last several months. My view on it, though, is just make everywhere a bunch of stalls. You can have a urinal or a toilet, but I digress. From my understanding, most transgendered people want to change genders because they feel that they were meant to be a different gender than what sex or biology has made them. However, as the activity that we did for this week's assignment shows, that there are many reasons why somebody can appear to be one gender but identify as another or really be another. In cases like that, to me, it would be really hard to tell somebody that they couldn't do something based on these few aspects of their body. If that person was really wanting to compete and have the athletic ability to be able to compete, why should they not be allowed to? In the instance of the case that we looked at for this week's assignment, it was a genetic mutation, gene mutation, medical condition of why she was showing these signs. So she definitely should be allowed to compete. However, in certain instances, biology does matter. Our sex does matter of what we can and cannot do. Men and women biologically are very different for several reasons. The most important one to me is reproduction. Both male and female are very important for reproductive reasons, but ultimately men cannot carry babies and grow them inside of their bodies. So therefore, women are needed to be able to carry on the next generation, and as well as males. Women cannot create sperm, and so until those necessities are met, that biology does matter. If you are biologically a male or female, that does matter in the grand scheme of for reproductive purposes. Also, our bodies are built very differently biologically. Traditionally, men are stronger and larger than women. There are exceptions to every rule, obviously. Yes, hold on, honey. But ultimately, that's the general rule of thumb. Typically, men and women think very differently. As the Burm Sex Role Inventory study or questionnaire showed, that men and women have certain characteristics. Are you more nurturing? Are you more competitive? Are you more temperamental or more forgiving, more emotional, or things like that? For me, however, I scored pretty evenly on both. I've kind of always been more of a tomboy. Shane, don't touch the computer, honey. Where I'm not a real girly girl. I ride horses for a living. I like to get dirty. I don't like to wear dresses or put on makeup or do my hair. Like right now I have no makeup on, and this is how my hair dries right out of the shower. I'm just pretty low maintenance, but in my personality traits, I am typically more feminine. I do get more emotional than my husband. I am more nurturing, and he's more disciplinary. Being in the military doesn't help that side, but in certain characteristics like that. He was actually sitting right next to me, and I had him do the test as well, and his male characteristics were very far. It was like a 6.8 or something over his female characteristics, and mine were only about 0.4 apart. So for me, it was kind of always pretty, personality-wise, a pretty even balance. Even though my sex and gender is female, I still have, a few male qualities in there that, I typically get along better with men than I do women. I don't like a lot of drama and that sort of thing. But those things do matter in the grand scheme of things, in what type of friends you have, what type of partner you're going to be with, where are you going to be too much the same, too different, because too much of either side is not good. Although, in my opinion, there's really no right, wrong, or fair way to really determine gender in words of what biology and society or yourself has deems you of what you want or what you are. I do think that men and women, as much as people want it, are not going to be equal because of certain things like biology and society's traits and how they've decided of the different gender roles, as we were talking about this week, which has actually been quite an interesting week to study it, because I have been having some of the very same issues myself with being typically a stay-at-home mom, but now working part-time and dealing with things like childcare and my husband's opinions and views on me working and not being at home more. I was talking to my mom about some of the issues I've been having with my husband and in regards to our current situation and about what we've been learning this week. She thinks that the equality that we all seek, or that a lot of people seek, should be in the value of your work, not the importance of your work, not the monetary value of it. So my husband is in the military. That is a very important job, just as my dad is a police officer. They bring home money, they support their families, provide food and shelter and clothes and all the extra things that people want. But my mother, and currently mostly myself right now, we are at home raising kids, raising the next generation, keeping a human alive. That isn't always an easy task. That is just as important as what their job is, but we just don't get paid for it in a monetary form. And so it is deemed by society and people that we are not as equal to men if women are not in the workforce. And I disagree with that wholeheartedly. So I was working a minimum wage job when I was pregnant with my son, and when he was born, I told them that I could not go back because the amount I would be spending on childcare while I was working was basically my entire paycheck. And for a minimum wage, entry-level cashier job, it wasn't worth paying somebody else to raise my child. And so therefore I became a stay-at-home mom. And I never wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. I always wanted kids, but I always wanted to work and have my own life, my own identity away from being a mother. But due to our circumstances, I was, forced to be a stay-at-home mom. And of course I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world now. But it has been a struggle for me. A job just kind of fell into my lap. It's riding horses. I get paid to ride horses on the beach in Hawaii, so that is pretty cool. But I then ran into some childcare issues where his regular provider could not take him anymore, and that put me in kind of a bind. Thankfully, I did find somebody else this weekend, so we are going to start them this week. But that also creates a very hard spot for women to be in, because typically in the traditional roles, the man is out working, and so then the woman, they want to be equal and contribute to money financially. That was an area that I really struggled, was not being able to financially contribute to our family. However, one thing I have learned with just my experiences is that gender roles, it shouldn't be gender necessarily, or male, female. It needs to be whatever works for you and your situation, your family, your lifestyle. With my husband being in the military, we were stationed in Guam, and that was before our son was born, and I could not get a job there, even an entry-level job, because they favored their local community over military spouses, even on base. During that time, I was a housewife, and I didn't do a whole lot. And so I took it upon myself to make sure that, I did the cooking and the cleaning and taking care of his uniforms, getting anything that he needed done so he could focus on work. He didn't have to worry about life at home. So I took on the more traditional role because that's just what worked. And whereas, when I was working when I was pregnant, and now when I'm working now, we're both working, and so sometimes he has to be the one to do the dishes or do laundry because I'm at work. So he takes over more of the traditional female role of housework and childcare and that sort of thing. No one should tell you differently based on your gender, your sex, any of that sort of thing. And gender roles just shouldn't really play into life anymore, because especially for me, we're married. This is a partnership. This is not me versus him, who does what better. This is a partnership. We are a team, and together it takes both of us to make this family work and to make us successful. So it's all about what works for you, and I just don't like all the stigma that is going towards, people can't do this because they're a woman. People can't do this because they're a man. And in the grand scheme of things, like I had mentioned earlier, yes, biology does matter. But in most things, and we shouldn't be told that we can't do something because of our gender. And I think that's something my dad raised four very strong, independent women, sometimes too strong and independent, but he always instilled in us that we could do whatever we wanted to do, and don't let anyone put us down or make us think less of ourselves, because we deserve nothing but the best, and I think everybody should be taught that. So I'm hoping that today's society will get back into where we should be, and just forget all about being on one side or the other, and forget about what other people are doing, because 90% of the time it does not matter what other people are doing. You can only control yourself. And so that's just my view on roles or gender and sex and gender roles. Thank you very much for watching this video.